Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Santita Jackson Show here on AM 950 Radio, the voice of progressive Minnesota. It's a joy to be with you today, right here on the progressive voice of Minnesota. I want you to meet me on the Santita Jackson Show YouTube channel. Like and subscribe there. Like and subscribe. And please go to the Santita Jackson and Friends Facebook page. That's the only place where I can accept friendships. I get blocked other places. They keep dropping all my friends. I'm losing you by the thousands. Can you believe it? Yeah, because they have a limit. But the Santita Jackson and Friends page is where you can go and we can all be family. So get on over there, everybody. Please meet me on X at Santita J or the at Santita J show. Let's get right to it, everybody. Hey, before I forget, Tio, I need you to work with me. We are going to show Vigilantes Inc. on Monday. Greg Palast is in town. He will be with us. We're going to have a special showing of the movie so we can talk about voter suppression. And I want you on that panel.
Okay, I'll be there.
Need you on that panel. And I'm going to send you the
flyer.
The flyer because I need you. We need to organize some people because they have removed more than 1 million people off the voter rolls in Texas.
Right.
Alone. And so please go to vote.org, find out what your status is. Even if you miss the window to vote on November 5th, guess what? You will be able to, if you get registered, should we have runoffs? And I think we just might, everybody, because these races are tighter than this. What you need to do is get registered to vote, no matter what. You need to find out where you can go vote. Vote.org can give you all of that information. And since early voting is starting all over the country, please call 1-866-OUR-VOTE. 1-866-OUR-VOTE if you have any problems inside of the polling station. If you have any question, ask them. Crystal Mason asked some well-meaning judges, and she ended up in prison because they gave her the wrong information. But they wanted to teach her a lesson and you a lesson and frighten you from voting. Don't fall for it, everybody. Your vote is your voice. Let's get down into the details of this election. I went to Michigan, I shared with you, just a few days ago, Monday and Tuesday. I was with my brother, Congressman Jonathan Jackson, and he asked me to go up to Michigan with him to campaign. I said, oh, sure, I'll do it. Anytime I get an opportunity to spend a little time with my brother so we can talk and laugh and just have some fun, I do it. And so he drove up to Michigan. They gave us time to sit and talk. And love you, Johnny. I was so glad to have some time with him. That having been said, it was also interesting because I wanted to find out Ariel Gold, Fellowship of Reconciliation, Tio Hardeman, Violence Interrupters, indeed host of your own show on WVON, one of our iconic independent Black radio stations, talk radio stations in the country, every Sunday on WVON at 6 a.m. Central Standard Time. Please give him your support. One of the things that I wanted to see was I wanted to find out, okay, what is going on in Michigan? My brother was just campaigning for Congresswoman Slotkin, who's in a very, very tight, contentious race for the U.S. Senate seat. But she called, and she called the Harris Walz campaign alarmed, Ariel Gold. She said, look, you guys, we are underwater in Michigan. And that, of course, will impact her. But it will also impact congressional races, plural. It can impact the state Senate, the state legislature. It can impact, county races, city races. This is a big deal. But the fact that they are underwater, and I saw them talking about it a lot on CNN and a few other places yesterday, I said, this is interesting. But I felt that when I was in Detroit. And it depends upon who you ask, the answer that you get. Some people who call themselves stalwart Democrats, and I'm a stalwart Democrat. I'm just an independent one, and I'm not afraid. I have a scientific background, everybody, and so I'm not afraid of what I put into an equation, because the great equalizer, Tio and Ariel and Dr. Ghanim, is the equal sign. It yields what it yields. The fact is now, Reverend Jackson, when he ran for president more than 40 years ago, said that the Arab American community is the secret weapon in Michigan. Indeed, it was his secret weapon when he swept the field in 1988. He would not have been able to have won 56% of the vote in a 6 or 7 person field, Taylor Hardiman, without the absolute hardcore support of the Arab American community, led Dr. Ghanim, in fact, by, yes, our favorite DJ. I love you, Casey Kasem. God, may he rest in peace. Without our knowledge, Ariel Gold, he was a very dear family friend. And my father even married him and his wife, Jean. He had gotten a bus and he went to Arab American strongholds, not just in Michigan, but throughout the country. He'd leave the taping of his show and he'd rent buses all over the country to register voters and to get people involved in the process. Because at that time, uh, the Arab American community had really been boxed out of the process. Indeed, we had a no talk policy with respect to the Palestinians. Well, fast forward 40 years, things have changed a whole lot. Since October 7th of last year, Ariel Gold, things have changed a whole lot. Now, Palestinian justice and Israeli security, as he asked to happen 40 years ago, now that's at the center of the conversation, not just in the United States, but around the world. So now, when the Palestinian community said, we've got to do something because the Biden administration is not moving, let's have an uncommitted campaign. And in 21 days, they said, look, if we can get 10,000 votes, we'll make a statement. They got 101,000 votes. 101,000. And this is just word of mouth. Let's do this. Can you imagine if they had more time, more boots on the ground? Well, it lets you know that something is happening out there. And so we want to talk with you this morning about what's happening in Michigan. We are so excited to have this gentleman with us because indeed, Dr. Ahmed Ghanim, you can help us to understand what we are looking at. Of course, we affectionately call you AG, and I'm so glad about that. But you are a former congressional candidate in Oakland County, Michigan. But you're also one of the leaders of this grassroots uncommitted movement. And so I want to hear from you why the Democratic Senate nominee for U.S. Senate coming out of Michigan, who's in a tighter than this race, what's going on? Because I know, and you know how these phone calls go. She called headquarters and said, look, we got a problem here. We are underwater. She didn't say we're slightly behind. Mm-hmm. She said, and you, Ariel, have been scared to death. You said, I am so afraid of because of what happened at the Democratic Convention, AG, and all of that. And just for the purposes of this conversation, I want people to know who you are. You, Dr. Ghanim. Really. She's underwater. Do you think that that's true? Well, she said it's true. So, and they're doing their internal polling. What is going on?
Yeah, thank you so much for having me on your show. It's an honor to be here today with the esteemed guest. I think she is right. And I think we have been trying to sound the alarm for the Democratic Party since February. First, I'm glad you brought the uncommitted campaign, because the uncommitted campaign, again, it's not an Arab campaign or a Muslim campaign. It's 100,000 votes. The Arab votes in this 1,000 votes is around 6,000 to 7,000 votes. Mm-hmm. So the vast majority, over 90,000 votes, are actually not Arabs, not Muslims, but grassroots for the Democratic Party. You're talking about the grassroots from the left, and your brother is, I'm sure he's very knowledgeable of this. If the grassroots, the people they are not your operative, those are not the paid staffer, those are the people that are very passionate about the cause. Those are the people that will go door to door, spend their weekends and weeknights working for your campaign. We're talking about the left people in the party. And this is like the main grassroots in Michigan are not on the same line with you. Again, even if you take the Arabs and Muslim out of questions, you have 90% of 100,000 voters that vote in the primaries are not with you. And what have you done from February 2024 till now to bring them back, or to show them that they are welcomed or they are heard? I deal with these people every day because I ran in Oakland County. In Oakland County, we don't have Arabs or Muslims. In Oakland County, it's mainly white majority in Oakland County and a small fraction of African Americans in Oakland County. And all the people that I deal with, I got 13,000 votes, and those the same also the 13,000 votes that actually still uncommitted and still this did not get any push for the Democratic Party that they listen to them. And we reached out to the Democratic Party, tell them that we want you to win. We don't want Trump. Trump is bad for us, especially for me as an immigrant Muslim with a thick accent and named Ahmed. So I'm part of the Democratic Party, but I want you to listen because in order for you to win Michigan, Michigan is very important state, and also Trump won Michigan by only 10,000 votes. Only 10,000 votes in back when he won Michigan against Hillary Clinton. And back then, when and what we said, like now that you don't have only 10,000 votes, you have 100,000 votes that you are not sure about, and also you have also this election you have a third party that's gaining steam in Jill Stein. She's gaining steam like never before, also in Michigan. So that's why I think that that when they said we are underwater, they are very accurate with that, and we tried to. But the problem is with some of the Democratic Party establishment, when they meet with some of the establishment leaders that they have some incentive in telling them that everything is fine. They go to someone that they claim they represent the Muslim community or the Arab community. They've been working with the Democratic Party for a long time, and they don't want them to say they want to say we failed to bring our people, but they say yes, we are divided. Everything is fine. Everything will be fine. People will come. And also they meet with African American leaders, telling them that they are fine. They are not fine. I did work on Obama campaign, and I saw how much the African American people were motivated to vote for Obama, and we thought that will come the same for Harris. It is not there, at least what I see in Detroit. So they know exactly we have a big problem, and in order for us to understand and solve this problem, we have to understand that we have to move to the grassroots, see what's happening. And for Vice President Harris, she has to dissociate herself from Biden because Biden policies are failed policies. They are not helping the country. They are not aligned with the grassroots. But she's not showing any drastic changes or any bold moves from the Biden stance, especially when it comes to foreign policy. And this is why you are totally right. We are witnessing a big problem in Michigan, and we need to solve this as soon as possible. Especially, there is the good news is there is time. There is still time because most Arabs, most Muslims, most African Americans, they don't early vote. They tend to vote on the election day. So we still have a few weeks before November 5th to fix this problem.
We're talking with Dr. Ahmed Gamin, who has been with the uncommitted movement, and we're talking about being underwater. Congresswoman Alyssa Slotkin, who is the Democratic nominee for the U.S. Senate, called the Harris-Walz campaign and said, we've got a problem in Michigan. We have a problem, and we've got to resolve it. And is there space? What could Vice President Harris do? And mind you, let us remember that she's still the vice president to Joe, who's still the president of the United States until the third week in January, right? So I'm not making excuses. I'm just stating fact, right? She is still serving at his pleasure. She's not an independent agent. But what could she do? Miss Wanda is going to be voting today. Thank you, Miss Wanda. What could she do? What could she say that could turn things around for her in Michigan?
So she is still one team with Biden. And I think the way she came to be a president, she did not go through primaries. She was actually introduced by Biden, and she was introduced by the establishment. So it's up to Biden and the establishment to do something to show the grassroots that we are Maybe it's too late, but we are moving to the right direction. And actually, I personally did not vote yet. I asked my friends to wait to vote to November 5th, just to use our votes as a way to pressure and to move the party. But Biden has to move. The established they have to move, and they have a lot of power to change. The United States, what's happening in the Middle East, as we said, the uncommitted movement is not an Arab or Muslim movement, it's an American movement. It's a grassroots. It has all the, as whites, African Americans, Asians, everyone in it. Also, what's happening in the Middle East, it is not a Palestinian issue, it is not a Lebanese issue, it's a national security risk for the United States. We are heading toward a regional war in the United States that maybe expand if they attack Iran. And if they attack Iran, Russia's not going to sit still. They're going to do something. And when Russia do something, China will do something. Imagine how is that the effect will be on our economy that's struggling right now in the United States if there is a big war happening in the Middle East and there is shortage in oil, there is shortage in global economy. All that will hurt everyone here in the United States. And this is the risk for us, and this is what we're trying to tell people. Forget, even if you don't think about the genocide that's happening in Gaza, think about the consequences of the regional war on us here in the United States. So, and we have to stop it, and we have to stop it now. It's very hard to stop the wars when it comes to in motion. When you go and attack Iran, and they are not going to kill too. So we need to stop that. And this is what Trump campaign is playing in Michigan. They are playing the card of, I had 4 years without any wars. And once day one, I'm going to stop the Ukraine war. I'm going to stop the Middle East war. I'm going to bring you back to peace and prosperity. And we want to see the counter argument to that by actions, not just by words.
Everybody, what do you think? Kenneth, Jewel, Wanda, let us know in the chat. Let us know in the chat. Zenobia, let us know in the chat. Miss Carol, my sister from another Mr. CLS. Hey, hey, hey. Is that you, Carol? I think it is. Everybody, let us know what you're thinking in the chat. Michigan underwater. You cannot win this presidency without winning Michigan, period. And Trump won by 10,000 votes. 101,000 people have gone on the record, and they were also Republican. Dr. Gamin. I mean, let's be clear. This is across the board, Ariel Gold. Americans want an absolute change in policy. They want a ceasefire. They want peace in the Middle East. And many people say that is a two-state solution. We want justice for the Palestinians because guess what? Before October 7th, and in the subsequent days when we saw the devastation heaped upon the Israeli people, we saw the devastation heaped upon the Israeli people on the 7th. But in the subsequent days and months and year, we've seen the absolute devastation heaped upon Palestinians, which quite frankly has been ongoing, Ariel, let's be honest. October 7th was not the beginning, it was a continuation. And in fact, I want to respond to a letter that I got from one of my readers and one of my listeners, and I want to thank you all for listening. But I'm clear that some of you, and perhaps many of you, don't agree with all of the thoughts and opinions that are expressed on this show. And I can appreciate that. But I'll address that a little bit later. And Ariel, I mean, underwater, this is something that it's like, it's biblical. Your greatest fear has come upon you.
Yeah, I feel like we're screaming into the dark sometimes, like just yelling into the wind. Kamala, we want you to win. The risks of Donald Trump, of going back to Donald Trump, are so big and so scary. And I think a lot of people.
Okay, I'm hearing something.
Pingings. Okay. I'm going to mute them.
Okay, that's all right.
All of these. Sorry, where was I? It was my son.
Oh, it's okay.
People are so impatient too.
No worries, no worries.
these, people I think have forgotten, right? Oh boy, and it's still going off. Let's see how I can get these muted
Okay.
again. Okay, I think that muted them. I think that people have forgotten, right? In America, we have really short attention spans. And I hear sometimes people saying, like, oh, it's not that different, right? Our two-party system, it's all the same. And it's not all the same. Donald Trump is an existential risk, but even without that, right? I've been thinking a lot back to 2020 and what we called the Nader effect. And there were a lot of folks that felt like our two-party system, they're all Republicrats and it's all the same, but that was the Iraq War. Right? We don't know what's going to happen during a presidency, but we do know that Donald Trump is going to ramp it up. We know that Jared Kushner and David Friedman will really be in charge of our Middle East policy. We hear Jared Kushner say, finish the job, and we hear Donald Trump using that language as well. We have Donald Trump supporting Israel bombing Iran's nuclear sites, right? And all out bring the U.S. into an all-out Middle East war. People say it can't get worse. It can.
But you know what? But let me say this, because what Donald Trump did say in that interview, and it was an interview that he was doing because he had gotten, it wasn't money from Mrs. Adelson, who has pumped money into that campaign. It had been set up by a big donor who was a big booster of Israel. He said, we've got to end this because you all realize this is a bad look for you. This is a bad look for you, and you need to stop and return to normal. Now, is that right? No. But Biden's not even doing that, Ariel.
Well, but Donald Trump is a wild card. He's going to say that out of one side of his mouth, and on the other side of his mouth, he's going to say bomb Iran's nuclear sites.
Yeah, but I have no guarantees that won't happen now, because Biden is like, he has no brakes. I mean, and I'm just saying to you, and I don't want to speak for Mr. Ghanim, Dr. Ghanim, I can't. But as I'm listening to these different voices, they're saying, get worse. It can't get worse, but you're saying clearly it can get worse.
It can always get worse. It can always get worse, right? We think it's terrible now, and it can get worse. And let's be real, we are also looking at annexation of the top half of Gaza. It is not coincidence that Israel is right now imposing a total food and medicine siege and water siege, saying you either leave the northern Gaza or you die. We know what happens next. The land lays there for a little bit, then they clear the rubble, and then the settlers come in, and then you have settlements there. This is annexation in process. And we know that with a Harris administration, even if she continues down Biden's path, which we hope she wouldn't, but we know that we have more allies. We have better resources to fight this under a Harris administration. And we have more allies here at home, right? If we're not busy trying to deal with Donald Trump's, racist domestic policies as well. We got enough on our plates, but we need the Harris campaign to help us out so that we can help them out. And we need them to throw us a bone, right? Give us something to work with so that we can appeal to folks who are genuinely hurt and angry, and rightfully so. But we need to be able to make a case, and we need the Harris campaign to give us something to make that case with.
Well, let me ask you this, because she has not made that case. And indeed, Rania Patrice, our sister beloved, several days ago said, look, she needs to establish whether she is the captain or the captive. And to be fair, everybody, the higher up you go the food chain, well, no, once you enter into this system called politics, elective office, you are not free. You're not as free as you were, T.O. Hardeman, when you are say a community organizer. But you do, while you lose some freedom, you also have leverage to get things done for your people, the people you've been working for at home. In life, there are always trade-offs. If you have a child, half of your DNA has to go off to the side and join with somebody else. I mean, am I not being honest? I mean, in life, we have to give things up. So that's what we're looking at. What I want us to understand is how important it is for us to get involved, Theo Hardiman. Because when we said Josh Shapiro, no, no, that's a no, that's a no, that's a no. She did respond. She did respond. Her people, she and her people responded because people said, no, that, no, not enough, enough. And I hope we understand, Tio, that in politics, that's the way it works. Ariel, right? I mean, you have to go beyond how I'm feeling and all. No, you have to push. Tio, what are you seeing? Because I mean,
Well,
to be underwater in Michigan, that's
yeah,
real. She can't win without Michigan.
yeah. The way I see it, Santita, and believe it or not, it's a situation where we may have to take a look at. Okay, let me put it like this. I've done some work on the world stage myself. We had some violence interrupters, believe it or not, working in Iraq, and we've had some conversations with the people over in Israel as well about the violence interrupter public health model. But the reality is this here with the Palestinian vote, the Arab vote. Your father, believe it or not, I have to say this. I'm not saying this because he's your father. He has a great relationship with the Palestinian community. The Democrats may have to enlist the support of your father to be a surrogate to speak on behalf of Harris, what she's trying to do there in the state of Michigan, because that's one way she might make some progress there. Now, the reality when it comes down to what's going on in the Middle East, I believe the United Nations should play a stronger role along with the United States to try to broker some type of peace agreement there, because a lot of the ownership is placed on the United States. And I understand pretty much both sides of the coin, the issue there, but the Palestinian people should not be put under siege and all the things that are being deprived of food and basic life necessities to survive over there in the Middle East. But the state of Michigan, when it comes to that Arab vote, which we know is a very strong, rich vote in that state. But right now, the Harris administration, once again, she needs surrogates. Now, look at what Barack Obama did when he spoke to black men. See, black men, I mean, I just want to put it out there. I'm not going to go too deep into it, but black men were thought about after. It's like an afterthought. We need the black male vote. Now we need the Arab vote over there. It's like an afterthought. And the United States should not be the only people that are in what you might say that have to be responsible for what's going on in the Middle East. Because whether it be Harris or Trump, I want to make this clear, both individuals have a strong stance to support the Israeli people, period. They've said it many, many times again. They're going to support them with everything, all the power they have at their disposal, right? So the reality is that we have to just be honest about it. The United Nations must do a better job. Right now, there should be a convoy led by members of the United Nations to go visit the Middle East and really sit down with them leaders in a more strong, thorough way and do the best they can do to just bring peace to that region. If all else fails, that's another story. But I don't think nobody's attempted to do that as of yet, because everybody's depending on the United States to back Israel. Okay.
Well, no, but hold on. The United Nations has spoken. Their highest court.
Yeah, I know. I watched that. They spoke, but they should go over there.
No. But we're not. We're the ones. Let's keep it 100.
Yeah.
We're the power.
I know. That's what I said. Right.
No, we are. We're the
Right.
ones who have the veto power. That is what we've been doing. And the thing is, this power has been abused, and so now we're becoming a pariah state. Now more and more people are turning their backs, Ariel, Dr. Ghanib, on the United States. They're saying, you know what? I don't want to hear anything you have to say. More and more countries are de-dollarizing. No one wants to talk about that in corporate media today.
Well, that's why I said it has to be a unified effort, Santita.
No, I'm in agreement with you, but I'm just saying we're missing all the stuff that is happening. You are absolutely right, Tio. And I'm just saying no one's reading the tea leaves here. Because this is tied to so many other things, Ariel. And Dr. Ghanim, this is tied to BRICS. What is it? Brazil, Russia, India, China, South Africa. This is tied to the global South and their decolonialization efforts that are continuing. This is tied to Francophone Africa pulling away from France and saying, I dare you to come back over here. Get away from me. There's a lot has shifted. In the meantime, The United Nations, they really have no teeth, except we did get, we were able to get, South Africa did take this case to the International Criminal Court, Ariel.
Right.
Dr. Ghanim, they did do that. And they were supported. And even, but I mean, because there's been no hue and cry, been no outcry about the harassment of South African diplomats and people who and lawyers and judges who've been involved in this case. They've been threatened with death by the Mossad. No one's talking about that. I mean, these people are living under threat every day. And America could, and you're right, Tio, America could shut this down in a minute, but they won't. Why do you think they won't?
There's just it seems like an overwhelming commitment. Like I said, I'm not against the Israelis or the Palestinians. I'm in favor of peace, whatever it takes to bring about peace. But the reality, America's just avowed to, we have to go back to the history of how the Israelis was, how the birth of Israel, you know what I mean? After World War II, how they were settled, whatever the case may be. And then every 2 or 3 years, you have the same story. If you think about the history of it, the Iranians end up firing missiles over in Israel. Hezbollah, Lebanese people and all that kind of stuff. I got a chance, believe it or not, and I'm not here to toot my horn. I want to make that clear. But I met with Queen Noor from Jordan before myself. Had a little conversation with her in a few situations. But the reality is this here. It's the same narrative. Now the Chinese might get involved. The China government may get involved if the United States attacks Iran. And then, the same goes on, Russia and all that. This happens every 2 or 3 years. We need a real strong commitment from the Palestinians and the Israelis to really work out whatever their issues might be. Now, what messenger can make that happen? I don't have a clue right now, but I do know the United Nations play a role. So, Desmond Tutu out of South Africa, I'm just speaking about in history. You've had your father, once again, people that can go out there, even a Malcolm X figure, type of individuals that have those relationships could go in there and broker this peace. I'll be willing to guarantee you that, but we need that kind of messenger that both parties can really receive. But I don't know if the Israeli people would receive it all the way. It's a possibility because they made a vow that they will never, ever be victimized again after what happened in Nazi Germany. So their mindset is from a child to the older people is locked in. We're going to defend ourselves no matter what, right? No negotiation. So we have to get to a point where we can break through that ice a little bit and begin to heal, the healing process. There's a massive healing that needs to take place over there in the Middle East with the Israeli and the Palestinians.
Well, and let's start with the Israelis because such people damage other people. That's what
there you go. That's it.
When you've not had the healing, because the fact is they went into a land that was already populated.
There you go.
See, so you started off wrong. And what many people don't know, Ariel Gold, Dr. Ghanim, is that this is not a religious war. It's not. This is politics. This is power. Yeah. This is one of the most resource-rich areas in the world. And these folks want it. Because when they had decided to split the Palestinian people to the West Bank and Gaza, these people did not know that Gaza was so rich. And it's just like as soon as the discovery was made that there was this trove of oil off of the coast, just off the coast of Cuba, that made them OPEC eligible. I remember reporting that on my old radio show. I said, we're about to reopen relations with Cuba now. And it happened like within months. We're going to normalize that because they can't be this rich and be this close. And remember, Russia forgave 90% of their debt to have access to that oil. So I'm just saying it's a lot of moving parts. And so, and I think we've got to be very sensitive to Palestinian people and to Arab people, just generally speaking, because this is not an academic discussion for them, Ariel. It's not an academic discussion for you. You all have relatives over there. When you see Rashida Tlaib and what people say, I just wish she would calm down. Her grandmother's over there. Now, we've all had a grandmama and a big mama in our lives. You would not want bombs flying over your grandmama's head. Your cousins. Who wants to get a phone call and find out your entire family has been wiped out? That is what's happened to these people. And I've gotten a few letters from people who don't appreciate the bent of my conversation. And I hear you. I want to be fair. I stand for Israeli security and Palestinian justice. I know they're married to each other. The Bible promises you that you have a seat, but it will be in the presence of your enemy, because your enemy, your opposition, is God's child too. Everybody, just the first thing you do when you're in a fight, the neutral broker, the police who are supposed to be neutral, they come in and they tell you to drop your weapons. I mean, I don't care who started Hatfields and McCoy. Stop it. Drop your weapons. Stop the shooting. Stop the violence. Stop it. That's got to happen. But to act as if the Palestinian people are not under attack, massive attack, it's not true. And it's our weapons. We're funding it. And I don't want to see Kamala Harris lose the presidency, because people have said, you know what? Okay, you blocked me from the Democratic Convention. You let Israelis come on our stage before you let Arab Americans. An Arab American who's been working with the Democrats forever. Someone who you trust. You can't trust me, I've been on that stage, Dr. Ghanim. You can't get on there unless they look at the speech. Fortunately, my father's extemporaneous, so he's going to lead the script, which is great. Maybe that's why he's not president, which is fine. He can lead the script. It's all right, and he's going to do that. But that's what they want. They clear everything that is said on that stage.
Well, I want to play the devil's advocate for a moment, Santita, if you don't mind.
Oh, not the devil.
Miss Harris, her husband, I believe, he's of Jewish descent. Am I correct?
Yes.
Her husband. I don't know if that's playing a role with the Palestinians. I really don't believe it might be playing a role, but you notice her husband hasn't been out there with her a whole lot. He's been out there a little bit campaigning with her, but not a whole lot. So that could actually have a little issue, a little bit. I don't know if it's a major issue, but we have to think about all different, like whatever the concerns may be from some of the Palestinian people. But I know Israel and Palestine, that's the priority. That's the priority right there. But just you have to think about that a little bit, though.
Well, then, I mean,
I'd love to jump in and respond to that.
I will ask you, Ariel, and I will ask Dr.
Yeah, you all can respond to it. Yeah.
I just want to point out, and to anybody that's feeling this way, I want to point out that first of all, there are more Zionists, more Christian Zionists than there are Jews. Period.
Okay.
Like, full stop. There are more Christian supporters of Israel than there are Jews. And in Jewish community, I actually think that the second gentleman's faith and ethnicity is an asset to us, because in Jewish American community, we are in the midst of a deep, deep reckoning. A deep, deep reckoning about where we stand, about what Israel means to us after a time where it has come to define American Judaism. And that is changing. And it's changing from the bottom up, from the young people. So including, for example, Doug's daughter, who has raised money for UNRWA and spoken out boldly for Palestinian rights. So even though her father may not be there yet, these conversations are taking place, and there's a reckoning underway. And what we need to focus on is our shared values and ending white nationalism, white Christian nationalism, which is the same force that fuels Jewish supremacy in Israel and the destruction of Black and brown people around the world, including within our country.
Well, white nationalism, whether it's Christian, Jewish, I mean, I don't care what it is. I mean, nationalism in and of itself, it's neutral. It's how it's used. Racism is the problem. Okay, race is not the problem. It's racism. It's thinking you're better than somebody. And clearly, because if you see how these Palestinians have been described by the military officials and government officials, they call them animals, and they treat them that way. And that's got to stop. And they need to be called out on that. And look, people ought to be able to marry whoever they want to marry. Let's just keep that 100. Okay. So I'm hearing you. I hear you, but I'm sure that is something we might not be seeing him on the campaign trail as much. Maybe that's a calculation they've made, because all these things are, and this was 60 years ago, but the world is what it is. Sammy Davis campaigned his heart out for JFK, But he married a woman named My Britt, a white Swedish actress.
Yeah.
And at a time when interracial marriages, let's be clear, marriages between blacks and whites, that was not constitutional.
Yeah.
So he was asked not to come to the inauguration. Everybody in the Rat Pack was there but him, and Dean Martin was angered by that and refused to go.
That's right.
He said, "No, he said, Frank, I hear you, I love you, but Frank Sinatra, we've had Sammy out here. It's been the Rat Pack, it's been all of us. And you mean to tell me now he can't go? Well, I'm not going to go either. I'm sit home with my friend and brother. Next." So, I mean, but there it is. But Dr. Ghanim, you've heard from us.
Yeah, thank you so much. I
We're
wish.
not done. We have about 10, 15 more
I
minutes.
know, I understand. I wish Mr. Hardman and people like him were advising Harris. We need people like him advising the campaign, because obviously from the short period he spoke, he understands the pulse on the street and he understands what people are thinking of. And
Right.
I think that's what's lacking in the campaign of Harris. It's like, I don't know, for some reason, I talk to some people in the campaign and I tell them, you guys want to lose? It's like you are pushing her to lose. Are you working for Trump? Because it's very hard to, as you pointed out, that he pointed out a very simple policy that Biden can take, which is hiding behind the UN. And even if you have this commitment to the lobbies for Israel, you can say, okay, there is a stand by UN led by the international community. We at the United States cannot stand against this. We will try to work with them to get you better chances and work with something. So you can work with the UN, you can work with, but what happened is actually Biden, they cut the fund for the United Nations relief agencies working in Gaza just on a report on a magazine that some Hamas militants are there. Just on a report on a magazine without even doing investigation, without even after the investigation came and they say this was a hoax, this was not right, this was not real. It took weeks and weeks to restore the fund back. So if you just take a decision to cut the fund on people under on a war zone, I think that speaks volumes of how is your policy working as. And this is the problem that we people saw in the streets here, not just Muslims or Arabs, that we are not really leading a policy. If you want to be the number one or the superpower in the world, which I hope the United States stays like that, because I don't want China to be the superpower. That comes with a lot of obligations and a lot of, because you have to tell everyone that you are safe with me. Is exactly like that the example that you said about the cop coming to a fight. Everyone will say this policeman is fair, but if you come as a racist policeman, I will be, as a person of color, I would be fleeing away, even if I am the victim. So this is what we want to restore, and this is what actually the democracy in the United States need to be restored inside the United States and outside the United States. Outside the United States, I'm an immigrant myself, and I understand how people look at the United States overseas. As people, as someone was raised on the American movies and American culture in TV, I was raised as a child watching the American movies and like the lifestyle, and tons of people around the world like that. But when they see the policies of the United States, the foreign policy, that's what actually creates this big problem that it's very easy to see it's not fair. So we need to change that. And Biden had, I'm not saying they have to change it, to the total opposite. I'm not saying they has to come tomorrow as Jesus and work everything right, but at least he can move the needle a little bit. He can move forward a little bit. And that's what we're asking Harris, that we want to see you as a leader, as someone like, I was much younger when Obama ran. And I was like, when I saw him the first time, I said, oh, this is the leader that I can follow. And I think the same was tons of people of color. Obama did not just come for the black people. Obama was a hope for me as a young person of color too. And I saw that, and from day one, I said, I think this man speaks for me. I'm originally from Egypt, and what happened in Egypt, like after Bush, when like people against the United States and stuff like that overseas. In Egypt, people started to put the pictures of Obama in their homes and in their shops, and they were selling statues of Obama. Just organic people, just random people. Even see, this is exactly what I told Harris campaign. You had the chance to bring the first African American colored woman to the stage and be a historic moment, not just for the United States, but for the whole universe. And you are losing this moment because how many people will look at Vice President Harris locally, domestically, and internationally? And they say the same as I said when I saw Obama. I am follow this leader. This is my leader, and I'm gonna follow this leader. This man gonna make a change and will be historic. I don't. This moment is being lost because of the problems with Biden administration and problems with the campaign. And for her husband, I feel bad for him. He's been targeted for his religion, and I don't want anyone to be targeted for his religion. Actually, right now there is a Republican PAC in Michigan that's targeting Arabs, Muslims, uncommitted people, and the left, and they send them. I get like every 2 days. I get a mailer every 2 days targeting Vice President Harris' husband, religion, telling me, hey, she's married to a Jew and she will be working for the Jewish people. And
Right.
even the picture they put, that's very, very smart pictures, it's very evil smart, that they show her like she's leaning in his shoulder, like he's the leader, like he will be the real president of the United States. And
Like he's her husband.
yes.
Right.
And
We
what you want to
understand,
say,
right.
you want to say like the subtle message that you want to send to people like me, if you elect her, you're electing a Jewish person to be the president of the United States, which is that's actually boils my, because I'm a Muslim too, and I don't want to be targeted by my faith, and I don't want anyone to be targeted by their faith, including her husband too. But this is the game they are playing right now, and they are using this. They are using this. This what's happening, the background, the political background that's happening to target Harris. They send Harris pictures, they send Elissa Slotkin's pictures, and they say they are supporter of Israel. They are against the protesters. They say all the triggering words that make anyone in the progressive movement not vote for them. And not everyone. When I get the first one, I said, "Oh, this is out of line. I don't think Harris will send this mailer." But I looked at paid by a PAC that actually a Republican PAC, and they are spending. I'm not saying millions. I ran it as a campaign myself, and I know how much it costs to send a mailer. It cost me like $50,000 to send only one mailer. They sending me an entire Michigan progressive list, a mailer every 2 days. You're talking about hundreds of millions of dollars
Right.
at Harris, and they are using this to put her in a spot. So that's why I think Elissa Slotkin is a very smart woman, and she knows what she's talking about.
Well, I mean, and I guess all I'm saying to you, Dr. Ghanem and Tio Hardiman, is what I'm hearing, everybody, and Ariel Gold, and we want you to be at Rainbow Push at 930 East 50th Street on October 21st. Join Tio and I. I wish you were going to be here in Chicago, Ariel, and you, Dr. Ghanem. We're going to be watching Vigilantes, Inc., the voter suppression hitmen. Yeah, they are out here. They've put more than 1 million people off the rolls in Texas alone.
Right.
And it's happening all across the country. And guess what? Your vote, your right to vote can be challenged on election day. We're going to have a conversation about that at Rainbow Push at 930 East 50th Street. You got to be prepared for that. Everyone, we've got a lot of work to do. We've got a lot of work to do. Because really, this is not about people's religion as much as it is a perception of power. This is a power fight. It's a power fight. And we're going to have to learn how to share God's earth. And we've got to do the right thing, not do better, Ariel. Very dear friend of mine, Uncle Mickey, one of my godfathers, said, he was in the hospital. His health was declining. And the doctor said, walked into the room while we were standing there, and they said, well, what we're going to do is make you better. He said, then give me my clothes right now. I don't want to get better. I want to get well. It's enough. We've had enough. Enough people have died. There's pain and hurt on all sides. It's just got to stop. And America cannot participate, cannot put its thumbs on the scale and hurt people. It's just not right. We're just not going to be blessed.
Hmm.
It's just, I mean, it's just, I mean, Theo, I don't know what else to say. I'm going back to Sunday school, Ariel. Dr. Ghanim, I'm just
Well,
going back to basic things. My great grandmother who couldn't read or write, that she told me, you got to treat people right.
it's
I mean,
very important to treat people right. If you look at what happened in Rwanda back in 1994, the
yeah.
mass genocide or whatever atrocities that were committed, they attempted at restorative justice to try to repair the harm, but they failed in those efforts. But Rwanda right now is one of the cleanest African countries in the African region. Okay, so they were can overcome. Now, one thing about the Palestinian-Israeli conflict is more so we need to put a human picture on there opposed to just Palestinian Israel. These are human beings, right? So I see, and the elephant in the room is if the United States were not to support the Israelis, it would be all out war over there, right? So that's what everybody thinks pretty much. The United States,
but they shouldn't think that way, because
well,
maybe
they shouldn't think that way, but that's the thought that's out there. Okay?
Yeah, but I'm saying, maybe we're the problem.
Because that's why I say the elephant in the room.
Yeah, because you're right. I mean, because we're not being honest brokers of peace.
There you go.
And that's it, because I think that we have a special relationship with Israel, and I think that we are hurting Israel by not telling them the truth, Ariel. By not telling them that you are hurting yourself on the world stage.
Right.
You're hurting yourself.
Hurt people hurt other people. Even with Nazi Germany, with Hitler, he had to concoct this mindset that the Jewish people back then were like exploiters of Germany and all that kind of crazy stuff he put out in the universe to justify his actions. And so the Jewish people vowed, once again, never again will that happen. But the Palestinians have not done that to them. So now it's time for us to try to deal with some healing over there before it gets way, way out of control. It's already out of control, but before it gets massively out of control, we have a moment in time that the United Nations can come together and heal this situation, at least solve it a little bit.
Well, Ariel, what's your closing thought? Oh no, but unmute.
I'm gonna, go back to where I started. We need to win this, and we need to remember, where we are united and what's at stake and what our common shared values are. And we need to keep asking the Harris campaign, come on, help us so we can help you. Help us so we can help you.
Help us. You're sounding what Tom Cruise, what was it in that movie he did with Cuba Gooding? Help me, help you. Oh, you're such a great talent. I can work with you, but you got to help me. I'm just standing in our way.
And, I'll just add this as well. Harris isn't going to lose any Jewish votes by, speaking out for Palestinian rights. First of all, American Jews, almost 80% of us vote Democratic, and we vote on domestic issues. We do not vote on Israel, even though it's an important issue to us. And those aren't the swing states. Anyway, Jewish votes would not be lost. You got a lot of young Jews that would be inspired and feel heard by support for Palestinian rights. Come on, Harris. We're in the home stretch here. Give us something.
But there's something, she's not hearing that message. Because when you get to Washington, that's not the message that you hear. Among the first people you meet when you get to Washington, you get a packet from AIPAC when you are an intern on the Hill. So while that's true out here, inside the Beltway, that's not true. And so on K Street, that's not true. Where all the lobbyists are, it's just not. And so what we have to do, the thing is, everybody must be put in their place. That's why John F. Kennedy had a point. He said, no, you need to register as a foreign lobbying organization, and then you will be contextualized properly. But so all this has to change. I mean, and it has to change for everybody, because they're the ones who are getting hurt, Ariel and T.O. and Dr. Ghanim. I mean, on the world stage, the narrative has been changed. And what's coming behind that changed narrative is some very, very painful issues coming toward the Jewish community. And I don't want to see that. See, because when I'm very clear that when you hurt one person, you're going to hurt me. We're all hurt. We're all hurt. We're all hurt. We've got to live together. Dr. Ghanim, you have got the final word here
No,
because you're the one with you all have the power. You got 101,000 votes.
thank you. No, thank you so much. I'm not a spokesperson for the Uncommitted campaign, definitely, but I think what we have to do is, I think we continue to learn from giants like your father, from the African American struggle that actually changes the system. And as you are totally right, I think we need to change the system completely, because if we are able to send hundreds of billions overseas for aid for Israel and for Ukraine, and we fail to help our people here. I ran in Oakland County. It's one of the richest counties in Michigan, but we have a city by the name of Pontiac, which is mainly African American community. And you go there to Pontiac, it's like, it's like a third world country. This is not fair. This is not fair for people here, for taxpayers here. Let's help our people here first. Let's have programs and we are capable of that. And I was working at the hospital in Illinois, and we were short staffed all the time, and the hospital was actually in an area where we have a lot of African American communities around the hospital, and the unemployment was high. And I told them, okay, why don't we create a program? At this time, we were actually importing nurses from Philippines. So I told them, we have a lot of young people here. We can create a program in the hospital to take them after high school and train them to be nurses, and we don't have to import nurses from overseas. Nursing is a great career, and if you get a lot of people from the African American community around us, imagine how that will improve the cities around us, because you will turn people into a productive people. And with high and I put the program, and all what we needed is federal fund. I think it's like $2 million federal fund or state fund or something like that, and we couldn't get it because there is no fund. At the same time, you don't have money to put your people in jobs and train them in jobs, and instead you import people from outside to work. And in the same time, the same government that said you don't have fund, they send overnight billions of dollars for war overseas. And this is one of the reasons that I ran. I ran because I think this is not fair. The American people deserve better than this. This is the democracy. And when people said, why did you run? You don't have a name. You're going to be crushed by the establishment. I told them, I came from a dictatorship. And the only difference between the United States and dictatorship is not that we have a just system. It's we have a chance to fight. This is what your father did. This is what Malcolm X did. This is what every icon in the civil movement. This is what the Jewish people did in Michigan, actually, because 1920, they were under a lot of attacks here in Michigan. When I read about the Jewish people, they were, brutal against the Jewish people here in 1920 in Michigan. Dearborn had a print shop dedicated to attack Jewish people. And they were, so it just, but because of those leaders moved, we have the system that we have right now. And in order for us to change the system, we have to work together to change the system and push back. That's why we're pushing, and that's why we're not going to the Harris campaign, say, yes, we are with you, and we will be with you no matter what. This is what we say. We say, you have a responsibility to change the system, and we will be your soldiers, the foot soldier in the streets to change the system. So let's work together. So whether that happens with this cycle or next cycle, I think we have to keep going. We have to keep moving from, I studied any book about the civil rights movement, especially for the African American movement. I study it, and we in the mainstream media, we know like 1% of what the African Americans went through, and to be where we are right now. So everyone in the United States should learn, and we should move forward.
Amen. I mean, because really, and that's it. My mother said, you can't hurt me without hurting yourself. The converse is also true. You can't help me without helping yourself. We have got so much genius just on our shores. So when you deny people an education, vocational or academic, the world is poor. I think our Jewish brothers and sisters say, every life is a universe. You don't know what gift somebody has. You don't know what somebody has to give, so what somebody has to bring to the table. So thank you for your advocacy. And now you got to go on and run again. You can't stop running.
No, running is even. I think when I tell people like running is not winning the race is good thing, but this is not everything. When
Well,
you are running, there is a platform to talk to people and
that's right.
introduce new ideas and challenge the status quo.
And
And
your time can come. You just don't know. You just continue serving. And you know what? We're going to lobby so we can get that program and get these nurses who will be Black, who will be poor and white, who will be Latino. Look, I know Black kids have been disadvantaged. And I know you're sitting in an area where you see all of these kids who say and do little things that let you know, wow, this child is really, really bright. They've never had a chance to have their mind cultivated. Let's do that. But let's also cultivate love in the Middle East. This is a tremendous human story, everybody. And if we can work that out, and I know that we can, if we will, because God has put the power in our hands, we can work this out. We can, and everybody can win. Nobody needs to lose. The Israeli people can win, the Palestinian people can win, and if they all win, we will win together. But they can only win with justice. We don't want quiet, we want peace.
Good.
And you're not going to have peace without justice. And you can't have justice without mercy, and you can't have any of it without love. We have to love each other. It's not a suggestion, everybody. I don't care what your religion is. That's a commandment. Now, come on. Let's be about the business of that. Everybody here's got another path to God, so let's figure it out, y'all. We got to love each other. I love you, Ariel. I love you, Tio. I love you, Dr. AG. And I love you, Morning Stars. Sending you so much love on the Santita Jackson Show. Let's work it out. That's what the Beatles said, right? We can work it out. Oh, yeah. We can work it out. I love you, everybody. God bless you.
All right. Thank you.